Weird Science
is the revolution.
Justice Society of America #9, written by Jeff Johns, with art by Michael Giannine, Jordi Belair, and Rob Lee. I'm telling you, the thing is,
Michael Giannine is what I hear is the
we have said it
pronunciation.
so many different ways. I'm never going to get it right now that I know what it's supposed to be.
Like syllables there.
I'm trying to do something here, but I'd like to get it right.
I think we got it right at some point.
Love him on this book.
It looks awesome. I think it looks great. And we're going to talk about this, obviously, but it's a shame. It actually makes me sad talking about this book because I do like it so much. Yeah, it's been delayed, and I'm sure people will comment on that. Maybe some people don't like Jeff Johns. But if you were reading The Lost Children, the whole Flashpoint Beyond, into this, it
all works well.
It works so well, and it ends up where it might take a little effort to remember some things, or maybe you have to look up some things, because I did, but the things work. And I still say, even people not loving Jeff Johns as much, when you end up having somebody try to work something in a continuity, seriously, people still say, oh, that's not as good as Jeff Johns. That's what he's great at. And he keeps doing it. He keeps doing it to get, in this issue, a reveal as a cliffhanger that it's like one of those things. I didn't even know that we were going to get a surprise at all. And when it happened, it almost blew my mind, and then blew my mind more as I looked it up, because that's what I started looking into.
But that's the problem with the book, because the thing is, we don't know how long this will be. You hear like a little birdie tell you it might be 11 issues. Hopefully it's more than that, but we don't know. On top of the delays, it's just killing the book overall, and the momentum that anybody buying the book is going to keep up with because of those delays. And this whole issue, there's not a lot of action with it. And all the action you will get for the most part is dealing with going after the Harlequin son, which a lot of people won't care about. One of the lost children, one of the 13 that we had that were put on ice by the Time Masters previously in Flashpoint Beyond. But he is one of the members of the Huntress's future JSA. She's going back in time now. Her future's erased. She is trying to put together her team now, in the present day, and it's a bunch of reformed criminals, but it's too early, so they have to try extra hard to reform these criminals. And the Harlequin son, that's the entire action bit, but it really shows you in there with the JSA members that they took to try to take him out, how he's able to deal with them. Like, he almost just feels like a vigilante street-level character, but he's able to take on characters like Stargirl, Power Girl, Hawkman, and all of these other ones. I'm like, you did enough here to make me care about the Harlequin son and make me think that he should be a member of the JSA. But besides the action portion of it, you had just such good character work with dealing with the idea of what happened to the lost children after the Stargirl special was over. And they're going off with Steel, the Freedom Fighters, even Damage and stuff like this, other JSA members you don't see a lot of. And even the idea where a Quiz Kid, the original Mr. Terrific sidekick, is talking to Michael Holt. He's living with Michael Holt and Michael Holt's newly found son that we had previously from Jeremy Adams' Flash Run. But he's just talking about the idea of the original Mr. Terrific Terry and what it meant for fair play and how we have to get back to that. I'm like, just these little concepts of all of these things, like Steel hanging out with John Henry Jr., what that would look like. Even Natasha being on for the Steel family of things, Damage and Dynamite, and even Ladybug and with the Freedom Fighters. I just think if you could do a Freedom Fighters book with that, and Cherry Bomb on top of that as well, the little human bomb character that we had previously. Just all these little things I care so much about that I think could be really cool. And I'm like, we're never going to see them, but I appreciate them being mentioned here, because there's always a possibility that these things can come down the line. I just don't see people buying it, because I don't see people talking about these young characters from the Lost Children, besides for you and I, obviously.
I love every one of them. I love Salem the Witch Girl, but I'm starting to really like Quiz Kid a lot. And again, like you said, I worry, because even if it goes past 11, it's only going to 12 at the most. And Jeff Johns, now I say with Jeff Johns, because he's leaving, he's doing his Ghost Machine. I keep hoping and waiting for, come on, announce that Venditti's going to continue on main book. Jeremy Adams is going to do things. Maybe both of them do it together. But like you said, at this point, I'm thinking, I don't know if that'll sell. Is this something that they're going to allow to continue? Because they're so good. And even the deal, and people say this, and I'm actually eventually going to do a video on this, the idea of, are you a guy who's more art or story? I'm actually a guy who's more character, and I keep saying to a lot of people that if you set up characters and you fall in love with the characters, you will go through the ups and downs of stories and things like that. And a lot of times nowadays, you end up having these books, DC and Marvel, the big two, they feel like assignments. We say this all the time. This doesn't feel like anybody had a pitch or anything. This feels like not an aside. This feels like a passion project with these kids, and he's doing so well with it. And even the idea where a lot of times writers, when they make these new characters, everybody's so against them. Oh man, they're forced. These aren't forced. And the way that I love this idea and the whole concept is you have Huntress who needs to get together the second chance squad that she's doing for her. But they're trying to do it before these characters want a second chance sometime. And like, it's so...
They haven't decided to reform yet.
Yeah, so you're trying to... But then the reveal you find is a time travel deal that makes total sense. But when you get Quiz Kid and you have this character, and instead of this character saying like, man, everybody here sucks and I can't stand it, he actually, in just one couple panels, one page says, you know what, when I ended up being remembered and I'm here, oh my God, like the technology, I thought the 1940s technology was great. That was nonsense, but I think we're missing something here. And I think we're missing the purpose and the camaraderie and the things of the fair play and all. Why don't we get the Fair Play Club back together? And I'm like,
that's right.
Please, that sounds so good. It's a idea of, oh, these are Golden Age characters being brought to the present, but they're also bringing kind of that feel and that fun of the Golden Age as well, that whole camaraderie. Everybody had a team, a fair play team. Just imagine if I end up where I'm like, hey, Eric, I just got called by DC and they want me to write the Fair Play Club. Nowadays, people are like, that's ridiculous. But that's the fun of it. But that's also the kind of, it's sad that something like that wouldn't work now. But it would have. Newsboy Legion at one point. Yeah. I mean, for crying out loud, there was so many.
The idea, though, of Quiz Kid, Fair Play, and Mr. Terrific all getting together to do more street-level stuff to try to help the downtrodden instead of costumes, supervillains, and stuff like that. Whenever we get Michael Holt anymore, all he's pretty much doing is sitting in the background. T-spheres are flying, or maybe he's being consulted by somebody, or he's like, coming in on T-spheres. The idea of him going to lower level stuff with his money and technology would be amazing to try to help the city around him. And it might just be like a way to humble him into showing like what Mr. Terrific actually means and all this stuff in a today's age. And it's just such a weird idea though, because you have a huge reveal here by the end. And I'm just worried about the idea of like this continuing on because I don't want anything to get lost if we get a new writer coming on. Anything lost with like
that's
with
why
Jeff
I like
Johnson
Venditti as the idea. He's good enough to maybe continue these concepts. If you get like the Clune Reds or something, forget it. It's done.
But even the ideas though, where like you and I believe that we have like 2 issues left. There could be more, but you and I have an inkling there might be 2 issues left. We have so much to work with, especially with the big reveal by the end, because right now we still have to deal with, on top of this other stuff, like getting the second chance crew from the future in today's kind of time together, reform everybody, all of this stuff. But in the background, a lot of people are forgetting because of the delays that we had Yolanda Montez and Beth Chappell brought back to life from Lazarus Planet. And for some reason, we have no idea why. There was something that happened there that is affecting them as well. And Eclipso has taken over Yolanda Montez.
It's just left aside, right?
Left aside, and by the reveal at the end where Mordru shows up to be the Golden Age Legionnaire, I'm like, well, Mordru, last time I remember seeing him in any kind of prominence, like outside of New 52 continuity and stuff like that, that wouldn't really matter anymore. He was teaming up with Calypso for the Princes of Darkness stuff. I'm like, what are we doing? Do we have enough time to do this? Because, God, I want to see it. Because everything here, on top of the character work, the big reveal that the idea of the Golden Age Legionnaire that shows up here to be a part of the JSA, he is a young Mordru, and he needs the JSA help to stop his future self to not only from destroying the 31st century, but also this time as well. I'm like, you could just change so much here. If you have a young Mordru here who wants to make sure that his future never happens the way it's going to happen, you could change all of this stuff, everything in the DC universe. You could reboot the universe with this time because Mordru has no beginning or end. He is the most prominent villain in the DC universe through all of the times, the biggest agent of chaos that we have, and one of the most powerful magic users in the DC universe. Like, this is gigantic. How is this happening right now? I need more time.
I mean, it's one of those cliffhangers. And first off, get rid of the gimp mask. You got some nice hair there.
We will now that we showed who it is.
And so he's there. And again, I'm like, oh, Mordru. And then I'm like, each thing you look up, if you're not aware, it's huge. And like you said, and it's a shame because Jeff Johns now he's become known as the guy who delays things. Everything's delayed. And it started really big. You also had Shazam in there, which drove you nuts. But you also have Doomsday Clock. And you get this idea where he has such great big ideas, but he can't get them out there. And Doomsday Clock was supposed to end. It was supposed to end, and everything was going to catch up. We're going to have this whole universe deal. and it was delayed. So they stopped that, got Scott Snyder involved with the death metal,
metal's
all
the big
that.
deal, yeah.
So you had that. But the problem is these are two things, and this ends up being a book that not a lot of people I hear talking about it. The people who do talk about it, they really do like the kids and all that.
And the thing is, if you do hear people talk about it, you forget about it because it's so far delayed that you don't remember them talking about it.
I mean, really, the main talk of this book is to announce how much more it's delayed. I mean, that's what you get. The news items of this are, oh, it's delayed another month. It's delayed another 2 weeks. And yet, when you get this Mordru, it gets me angry. I do get angry at Jeff Johns, but angry and like, you stupid, like, you had it. You were doing it again. You could have actually changed a lot of things and made a new, at least even a future deal. And when we were talking, we talked about this on our Patreon Spotlight this week, you said, if only it gets rid of that nonsense Bendis Legion and gets back, like, you did something, but it feels like it could have been so much more.
If the Golden Age Legionnaire turning out to be a young Mordru and he can change his time and make sure that the timeline changes and we just zap out the Bendis Legion of superheroes, we go back to more of a traditional kind of team, I'd be so happy. I'm like, you did enough. You can rest now, JSA. You did enough.
Go off to your ghost machine. You did your job. You're saluting him as he leaves. It's funny, too, when I was reading some of the things that he says. He takes off his gimp mask. Thank God. Thing's scary as hell. He goes, but I'm Mordru, and just as you are changing the futures of the other villains to be, we must change mine before I not only destroy the 31st century, but this time as well. And I wanted them to say, hey, like, what do you destroy in the future? What's going on? He's like, you have a lot of time. He gets out a list. He's like, well, the first thing is this. You have so many things involved with him. And again, that's one of the things that I don't hear people sitting around, at their dinner parties going, I wonder what Mordru is up to. Oh my, that Mordru. But when you see it, you're like, oh, I see why he picked. Like you said, it runs through Mordru a lot and really is a guy who could change a lot.
I imagine if you go and do something, you stop him from taking off the power of the planet Xerox, the sorcerer planet. You stop his power before he has a chance to get it. That could be such a cool play.
But then the Great Darkness can't grab the power. See, there's a lot of... And sure the thing is here, when you go and do this, it really then makes sense again. This is something where a lot of writers, this cliffhanger would happen. You'd say like, well, why would he be? No, he actually says, I need you to help me. You're doing a second chance deal. And he says, you're changing the futures of other villains to be, please let me on. And even says, I tried to join the JSA a bunch of times. They were kind of jerks and let me, but now I realize I need your help. I don't want to destroy.
And I also want to know the background of the Golden Age Legionnaire. How did a young Mordru become a Legionnaire from the future that, went back in time to the Golden Age of superheroes and stuff like that? I want to see that story, and hopefully we'll get it in the next issue as well, but there's so much to do.
Man, it's good because a lot of this is character work stuff. Yeah, you have a little battle with Harlequin's son that we say he might have died. They seem to have lost track of him as he might have fallen to his death, but we'll see how that goes. But a lot of the character work, like, it's good. I mean, even that, like, I would have never guessed, oh my God, you got to read this issue with Harley Quinn's son. Most people would be like, what? I don't even know him, or I don't.
Harley Quinn's son? No, the Harley
that's
Quinn's
what it
son.
would be. And yet, when you're reading it, and the explanation of, well, my mom... I
still want to be Alan Scott's son as well, but I'm not holding my breath for that.
Yeah. And even then says, jumping back and forth, you have a bunch of people talking about the idea, well, my mom did kind of hook up with the Green Lantern at one point, but also mentioned some of the tech that everybody uses was his mom's. I like the idea that he's kind of giving props to his mom. Like, he ends up like, you think we're jokes, but we're not. It was nice. And that stuff, I'm telling you, it's a small scene, but that stuff with Quiz Kid and Mr. Terrific, I thought was really, really good. And these are the things that kind of get me sad about this, that I don't think they're going to continue. And even when they go down a roster, because it's really getting rid of all the Lush children to just get a thinnered out roster for the next couple issues, because when they are like, Phantom Lady has taken Cherry Bomb and Ladybug under her proverbial wing. She expects the Freedom Fighters to help her sort out their next step. I'm like, I want to see that. I know it won't. I know it won't sell and wouldn't sell, but that's so cool. You see, Uncle Sam.
What's the old man up to? Uncle Sam, Black Condor. Where are my boys at? Hell, you can even bring in Plastic Man. Do it.
These could be looked at as just throwaway lines when Dynamite.
And Damage
have partnered up, although their influence on one another is up for debate. I'm like, we got to see that,
I haven't
right?
seen Damage in a dog's age.
Holy moly, I want to see how that works out. That's crazy, but Yeah, unfortunately, I think that we're just going to end this maybe in 11, maybe in 12 issues. Jeff John leaves, and it's just going to go away, unfortunately, and it's a shame because I think there's a lot of stuff here that a lot of people might enjoy. I don't know if they ever would. You said a JSA book is something I'll be everybody else for. And then when it comes out, it doesn't sell great because people just like yelling about it, I guess.
That's the idea of it, but it's a lot of homework to get into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and there's that core fans. It's just not, it doesn't expand out to the tertiary people or just casual fans.
And the thing is, with a lot of these characters, I feel that the fans that they had have aged out of comics and stuff like that, and they haven't had enough exposure, the younger fans, that is, to the JSA characters really care about it to say, why do I need this more than a JLA or a Justice League or whatever you want to call it?
They have to be the second chancers, right? Or are they dead, are you saying? Are they all dead or are they alive and just moved on?
I'll tell you this, though. The thing is, if the series goes to the wayside really quickly, I really want to see Michael Yanine work on a Hawkman book because he draws the hell out of Carter Hall here. I'm like, I want to see more of this Carter Hall.
This looks great. When I got in the fight with him, I was so sad. I even said, I'm a huge fan of yours. I'd love when you do it, but he's not on a ton of things anymore. And yeah, this looks great. It always, every time you do get an issue, again, delays, but when you do get it, it does feel big. And now the story, the character, everything feels big.
And the story feels big.
It feels huge in a book that you think, man, not many people are reading it, and they're still going for it. So I give them credit for that. But what would you give it?
I'll give it an 8.9 out of 10.
I'm a 9. A 9 out of 10. I thought it looked great. It's huge. And again, it reminds me when I read this, this is like a good, I forgot what a good comic like this is. It feels like an event. But at the end of this one issue, I'm like, holy crap. I have more wows in this than the last couple events from DC. It's crazy.
I can't tell you that I agree with the idea of doing the Second Chance Squad as the main focus of this book, but when you end with Mordru, I'm like, yeah, you just became an event book. I don't know why we're doing this other stuff. Be the event book the entire time because you just knocked out of the park with this reveal.
Absolute power, schmabsolute schmower.
Exactly. I don't care about the House of Brainiac or Absolute Power. Give me more of this now.
We're not going to get it, but we'll see. No. We'll see. Maybe some crazy announcement down the way. Because, again, even if there's 2-3 issues, that's going to take about 3 years, the way the schedule is with them. And when we get to that, they'll be like, then did he? And it would be so good, but it's a shame. But thanks, everybody, for listening. If you want to hear us talk at length about this issue, gush about it some more, you can go and check out our Patreon. We just ended up right before this doing a longer deep dive into it. We do it each Thursday. Our Patreon spotlight 2 books picked by the badasses, the Get Fresh crew, on a poll on the Patreon, and you could go over. The links are in the description, but it is patreon.com/weirdscience. And if you want to check it out before committing, you can have, Eric should be committed, but if you don't want to commit that, you can go and get a 7-day free trial to check out all the things, including Marvel, DC, manga, indie stuff, even stuff that isn't comic. A lot of stuff. So check that out. Thanks, everybody.
But obviously, we all know that DC is where it's at, so come on.
It is. I've mentioned a couple of times that's where the heart is at. The DC is where the heart is at, but yes, we do enjoy that. So yeah, go check that out, and we'll talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.